Welcome to OT Cyber from the plant floor up, a podcast focused on discussing the latest innovations and developments in the OT cybersecurity space. The podcast is powered by DYNICS and hosted by our CTO, Jeff Smith. Subscribe via iTunes, Spotify, or the DYNICS YouTube channel, or wherever you watch/listen to podcasts, and enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of OT Cyber from the plant floor up. We have a very special guest today. I will let the co-host Jeff Smith introduce him, but it will be a really great episode, so tune in. Jeff, you want to take it away?
Sure. Yeah. Glad to have Jerod Asbridge. He's the Chief Technology Officer for Genesee County. I'm not sure, Jerod, is it Drain Commission, wastewater, water management, a little bit of everything?
A little bit of everything. Drain Commissioner, Division of Water and Waste Services.
All right. That's the official one then.
Right.
I'll remember that until after lunch. So Jerod is in my home county of Genesee, which it's handy that they're close. So we've started working together here in the past year, and it's very interesting. It's kind of a new area for me. I've done a lot of different manufacturing, a lot of different agricultural, pharmaceutical. I have not. This is my first foray into water.
Yeah, welcome. Hope you enjoy it.
Oh, yeah. Been fun so far.
Jerod, do you want to kind of give some, and thanks, Jeff, for that intro. Do you want to give a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure. I've been in the IT field since 1996. So about 7 years. I started out at an old company that no longer exists called EDS. Electronic Data Systems. I'm sure people have heard of that, especially if you're doing the automotive stuff. I used to do a lot of stuff with General Motors. Was there for about 6 years before I moved on to become a systems analyst at Genesee County Drain Commissioner's office and become the Chief Technology Officer much later. I've been here at Genesee County Drain Commissioner, Division of Water and Waste Services for 21 years. We have a water treatment plant. We have 2 wastewater treatment plants, plus a district water and sewer distribution systems throughout Genesee County. And I am responsible for all of the IT and OT for that. So that is my background.
Awesome. Well, thank you for providing that. I think what we would love to get into a little bit more is how your organization works a little bit with DYNICS and kind of how we are all working together to make sure that we're providing safe and effective wastewater treatment and water treatment for the folks in the region.
Absolutely. If you want to if we want to dive into that, really each one of our plants, so basically we'll do the water treatment side. The sewer treatment side is not as, I don't want to say it's not as important, but it's not at the top of the list right now for everybody in security. It's not something that, it's more, the water is the more important side. And what we were looking to do is, the biggest thing with cybersecurity is that you have to have your OT, your SCADA system, which is what runs our plants, our control system, separate from all of your network side, meaning your business networks. So that's what we've done for the last 21 years that I've been here, is keep them, your OT side and your IT side, completely separate. I don't want to use the word air gap because I know Jeff doesn't like that word, which I don't really like it either, because you can't really, basically our OT side, which is our SCADA system, has no connectivity to the internet. I'll call it that. That's what we're trying to strive for. But we wanted to use DYNICS because we started to want to be able to see our SCADA system on our business side without affecting the security of that, right? So that's where we started buying products from DYNICS, trying to get this kind of a firewall between our OT and our IT side. Jeff wants to talk more about that, what we did there.
Yeah, so they've got the interesting thing about Jerod's business is that it's very distributed. So unlike manufacturing, where you might have a large plant with lots of assembly systems and a lot of very close-knit, tight, systems. His is kind of sprawled out all over the county. It's, there's remote water treatment, remote pumping stations, a whole plethora of things that I can't even describe yet, but they're dots on paper when we look at the overlying map. So, the first avenue we went down was how do we connect those sites securely? In many cases, they have a PLC out at that remote location, and there's also a lot of wireless in the location. So there's a local wireless network, and there's a larger wireless network that feeds all of those aggregate stations back to their primary office. And I think the first goal was how do we, how can Jerod and his guys connect to the networks out at these remote locations, connect them back to the office for their SCADA, for the various things they want to pull. Also be able to connect to those remote locations and troubleshoot, look what's going on, see what's happening, reach into those PLCs and pull data out of them. And that's kind of where we started with ICS360.Defender. Most of their PLCs, I think it's fair to say, and Jerod will correct me if I'm wrong, are Rockwell. And with the ICS360.Defender, you've got a lot of capabilities with deep packet inspection of industrial protocols like Ethernet IP. You've got different NATing options, and you've got VPN capabilities. So I think probably the very first thing we did was put an ICS-Defender out at the water treatment plant. And then we've now got an ICS-Defender back at corporate, and there's a VPN across their networks, which includes wireless and hardline, so that they can reach out and connect to those remote locations.
That's correct. That is what we started with. The water treatment plant is a completely separate and different network than what we have here at our administration side. So the Defender worked awesome in getting that information here at admin from the water treatment plant. It's a great tool for us, and it works very well.
Outstanding. Always love to hear that. And so one of the things we've been doing more recently is looking at how to increase their ability to connect in these remote locations and pull data reliably. But it's how to segment the network, how to, what layers of defense can be put in, how can the network be, isolated. Sometimes and this is common in networks, and even more common, I think, in some of the radio networks, is you can get bleed where the different legs of the network, if you will, come back to the antenna. And sometimes you'll get noise from other antennas that sort of bleeds down into communications from another location. So one of the goals here is to be able to completely isolate all of that and segment all of that, but do it in such a way that it doesn't become a management nightmare for Jerod's team. I mean, he has 100 guys on staff, so
I would.
He's pretty well flush with cash and resources, but even then, we like to try to make the management of things as easy as possible. So,
well, and speaking on that, segmenting this network is a big step in helping us with the cybersecurity stuff the EPA is putting out as well. So, there are a lot of steps to do this, but I think we're heading in the right direction. And I can tell you, with DYNICS help, we will be. I'm not worried about this EPA and the cybersecurity assessments that are coming because of what we will have in place, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense to me.
I think that actually segues great into the next topic, which is really what the current threat landscape looks like, along with the recent national cybersecurity strategy issued by the White House, and then how that, the EPA came out with a bunch of surveys and all of that fun stuff that you were just referring to, Jerod. And I think this is an interesting topic because it's one of those things where you can compare it to kind of taxes, right? You want to get ahead of taxes versus like getting that huge tax bill and being like, oh, whoa, sort of thing. So if you're consistently ahead of it, that really just helps set you up for success and really just protect the overall critical infrastructure. So I don't know. So I don't know if we wanted to kind of just dive a little bit into the state of the industry, since this is a great segue to do that.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great thing to do. Like right now, so I'll give you an example. So yesterday, cybersecurity, of course, is big on the IT and OT side. I was telling Jeff that, I'm in a monthly Michigan Cyber Partners meeting that has people from all over the state. And I believe it's all public education, local governments, utilities, all of that they come on board and do these meetings monthly now. And I do that every month. They give you all kinds of tools to check your systems, make sure everything's kosher, make sure you're using the right tools, stuff like that. But now the OT side has not been really touched in those meetings until recently, right? So now the SCADA systems are being pushed more. It was all business network stuff. It was all your email security, your, application security, your Active Directory, change your passwords. You have to have a 16-character password, or you are at risk, right? It's all been that. Now the OT side is becoming more and more of one of the main topics, and because of the threats that are out there, the Florida threat where they came in, which was a user. I guarantee you that was a user. They never said, but I guarantee you that was somebody that was in there that still had a password and got in there. You know what I mean? But it is, cybersecurity is one of the number one, talked about topics, and then of course they're throwing around new terminology like the zero trust. That's not really new, but it's the what do you call it? The buzzword of today, zero trust.
Yeah, it's zero trust. Yeah, that's the word people like to throw around.
Yeah, don't trust anything. Well, how do you work if you don't trust anything?
Right.
It's very interesting. It's a lot to deal with. They have all of these, what do you want to call it nowadays? Now they're throwing out all of these. You have to go, you have to do this, you have to do that. We recommend this, we recommend that. And they put all of this out there, and they expect small communities, they expect utilities, they expect all of us to be able to have the resources to do this, money-wise and people-wise. And I don't even know if they have the resources to do this, like meaning the EPA or whoever is out there going to do these assessments. Do they have the resources to send out people and to go over all of this? It's going to be a very interesting time, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's kind of like my take on electric vehicles is there's a lot of merit to the idea. There's also a lot of not so much in how to implement that and how to marshal the resources from a governmental, from a private sector, from a consumer perspective to actually make sense in any amount of time. It's a challenge, and I don't think everybody truly thinks and understands what it entails. And I was happy to see that the guidance that the EPA put out. It wasn't. They didn't go overboard. They didn't seem to. You go ahead, here.
No, I agree with that. They didn't at all. And I was wondering where they would go with it, and they actually. It's very, I don't want to say basic, but it's very straightforward, to the point, and it also combines IT and OT, and which I didn't know if it was going to do that at all, and it does. It's kind of both, which is good.
Yeah.
But again, you're going to answer these questions. You or I will. I'll get the assessment. I'll do the assessment, and then what do? I send it to them to go over. So, it's an assessment tool. It's not like they're going to have somebody come out here and go over your stuff. I mean, not yet. I can tell you maybe in the future that'll happen, but I don't see that happening now. You get manpower is the biggest problem with that. But so like I said, they gave a tool. It's the Excel spreadsheet that I would fill out, answer the questions to the best of my ability, which, and then send it back to them, and then they'll review it. But it's,
yeah, and it's nice that oftentimes when, and I don't want to pick on necessarily government entities, but federal entities seem to spend a tremendous amount of time pulling in a couple of different experts from different particular verticals, and they put out these guidances and these specifications that are really, they seem okay for one vertical. Maybe it's great for power distribution, that kind of thing, or maybe it's great for food and beverage or pharma, but it absolutely doesn't apply to automotive.
Right.
Or it would be incredibly difficult to apply a lot of the principles to automotive, and you kind of have to cherry pick what you do. The European Union mandates on cybersecurity are the same way. Although the European Union mandates on cybersecurity, there's a significant consequences for the companies that provide cybersecurity solutions. So I hope we never get to the environment, or I hope the atmosphere over here never gets to the point where that's the case. Because from our perspective, our products, and Jerod heard me say this before, everything we do is by default.
Right.
So when you pull an ICS360 out of the box, when you fire up a SDN OT controller, it's denied by default. Nothing talks to anything. And that's by design. And there's a whole lot of reasons for why that is. But one of those reasons is if someone misconfigures the product or gets in, and we're always happy to help configure. I've got guys up working with Jerod and his team helping configure things and talk through how it should work, look, smell, and feel. But we get customers that'll buy them and we never hear from them again until they call and say, hey, something got through the firewall, or something got through this. And we look at the configuration, and they've got a rule in there that says, allow everything to talk to everything. Well, yeah, of course it's going to get through. So my perspective is, if I delivered to you the product denied by default, any configuration change that was made that allowed something to get through that shouldn't was what you changed, not what I provided. And honestly, part of that is because I believe deny by default is the right approach, but it's also because, if we ever get to that point where entities are trying to mandate and then come back and hold cybersecurity providers accountable, that's my answer to that question. So,
right.
But again, they've done a good job. I think the EPA here, they didn't over mandate. They didn't raise a stick and shake it at Jerod and his organization in the state of Michigan and say, thou must. It was, here's what we think is important. Here's what we want to start moving towards. And here's some areas to start paying attention.
Absolutely. And then they offer assistance as well. So yeah. I think that's a very good thing. I mean, that's the one part that I said I was worried about is resources and stuff. But if you look at it, they offer assistance. They will give you some resources to help out. Yeah. You have some areas that you're not as strong in, right? So, I mean, I thought it was really actually very well. And then, they're offering training, which I plan on going to. I'm actually already registered for it. So it'll be interesting to see how far this goes and how, what they do with it.
Yep. And we'll keep our pulse on it. Jerod's already seen that I'm starting to kind of dig into his business, his world, and understand more about what what the needs are in water and water treatment and waste management and all of those, wastewater management, I should say. There's not waste management. They don't have, right.
Yeah. That's a little different.
That's different altogether. Right. So
right.
It's, it's something that, when we start working with, a new partner on something like this and helping them change their cybersecurity posture for the better, we like to understand their environment fully. So we're kind of digging in a little bit, and that some of that same training Jerod was talking about, I'm planning on attending. And I already told him that anything he can drag me along with him to, I'm up for. So it's just good to know. There's a lot of, and just from talking to Jerod and his team, there's a lot of other organizations, municipalities that just across the country that are really struggling, trying to figure out what to do with limited budget or budget constraints. And, it's So the more I understand about it and the more we understand about it, the better off and the better able to help those folks we will be. And it's a bit satisfying as someone who creates these technologies, which we do. We create the technologies that we sell and impart. That I can go into a vertical like water treatment, right? And the product just works there. It's flexible enough, it's scalable enough, it's adaptable enough that we can fit it into their environment and hit their bogeys in terms of what they're after, without having to, change the product really. I mean, we'll always continue to improve it, but the fact that we can walk into a completely new vertical for us, and we have a product that helps them out, that's tremendously satisfying for me.
Absolutely. And I, as a customer of DYNICS, I will push it and let everyone know that it works amazingly well. And it is only going to get better with our organization because we would love to be your guinea pig. Excuse me, whatever you guys want. If there's something that you guys have that you want to try, we'll try it, because it will only benefit us in the security area. I mean, it will only make things more secure. It will only make things better for us, work better for us. So,
and I love those customers who like to live on the bleeding edge.
Yeah, and we do here. Absolutely. Now, you might not find that, right? And you might not find that with all of the utilities and all of the local government organizations, but, we do like to do bleeding edge and be, anything that makes us work more efficient and, what is that term? Work smarter?
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we like to do here.
Yeah, that makes perfectly good sense. And a lot of what we're doing will translate directly to other organizations that do what you do. And we'll be able to show them that, look, it's not a heavy lift. I didn't walk up to Jerod in Genesee County, hey, I need $27 bazillion to solve problems you haven't even told me you had. When we sit down with, like we sat down with Jerod and his team last week, he'll probably tell you, I ask more questions than I talk. I don't just start talking about products and you need this and you need that. I'm more interested in, what, and I think I asked him this, what keeps you up at night? At 2:00 in the morning, what's the one thing that scares the beans out of you? And let's start talking about that and what we might be able to do to remedy that.
That's exactly what you said. Yes. And that is a refreshing thing. I think we as utilities get bombarded with, salespeople, right? I'm going to sell you this. I'm going to sell you that. It will do whatever you want it to do. And it doesn't ever do everything you want it to do. Correct. That's just how it is. It is. And again, okay. I have not had that experience with DYNICS at all. It's been, whatever we can do to help you out. And I think that's a refreshing thing.
It is. And we appreciate that. It's something we definitely try to do. Although I often joke when I speak that I may not have the answer for your question, but I can make something up that sounds plausible.
Right. Well, that's different though. See, that's okay. That's
one of my favorite lines.
That is a very good, I'll keep that. And like was it you told me that I'll give you credit for it for, yeah. But after that, I'll just say it's mine.
Yeah. The first time I relate something I learned from him that I thought was funny, I tell, well, it's my friend Jerod from Genesee County. And the second time it's this guy I know. And the third time I've always said,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
So that's the order of credit. So,
I mean, I was taking some copious notes here. I think that that is a really good kind of just wrapping up point. I do want to be a little mindful of time and all that jazz. So is there anything that you wanted to kind of leave with the audience before wrapping up today? Jerod or Jeff, whoever wants to take it.
I just think as a utility, as a water and wastewater utility, cybersecurity is going to be one of the most important things coming down the pipe. We have to make sure that we are on top of it and making sure that we are giving safe water to people. And I think cybersecurity is a very important thing. I mean, we have to stay on top of it. And I think we are starting to have the tools to do that. I think we're also being allowed to have resources from the federal government on it with the EPA, and there's all kinds of them. I think there's a ton of different things out there and resources for us to stay on top of it. And I think using the equipment and the stuff that we're getting from DYNICS will also help us stay on top of it as well.
Outstanding. Yeah, it's refreshing to work with an organization like Jerod's, and they know what they're doing, they know what they want to do, and they know where they want to get to, but they don't. I don't walk into a meeting with that team and they've got that we know how to do everything, and a chip on their shoulder, which sometimes it's difficult to work with a customer because they do have this thing set in their mind how it should go, and sometimes they're not as willing to think about it in a more open-minded way. And so when I run into a customer, and customers like that quickly become friends, and it's nice. I always tell people I may not agree with what you say, but I'm willing to listen to what you say, and if there's merit in it, I'll give it some serious consideration. And when I run into customers that are like that, it's very refreshing. So it's certainly a pleasure to work with Jerod and his team.
I love it. All right. Well, I think that wraps up this fabulous interview. I appreciate both of your time, and we will catch you next time. I think I'm sensing a part 2 here, Jerod, because I was about to go into some other topics, but I wanted to be sensitive to everyone's time here.
Anytime.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you so much to you both.
Awesome, Jerod. Great talking to you. Hey, Luke.